Hi, this is Aaron Eisberg-Nog from Star Trek Deep Space Nine, and you're listening to Beyond Trek. You can follow them on Twitter at Beyond Trek Pod and on Facebook at Beyond Trek Productions. Thanks for tuning in, and may the Great River provide.
This is Beyond Trek Podcast, your source for Star Trek on social media and around the web. I'm Big J.
I'm Watney.
And I'm Dag, the Trivia Master. You can find us on Facebook at Beyond Trek Podcast and on Twitter at Beyond Trek Pod. Hey everybody, thanks for tuning in to this next episode of Beyond Trek Podcast. I'm Dag.
I'm Big J.
And I'm Watney.
And we're here today to talk about the third episode of Picard, The End is the Beginning.
Yes.
Now everybody's seen it this time, right?
Yep.
Yeah, I've done my homework. And we didn't do this last episode. Yeah, there will be spoilers. We didn't do that last episode, but for and fair warning, there are massive spoilers in this, so you've been warned.
Right. That was that background you got. I like that.
That was a Christmas present from a friend. They make these on, I don't want to sound like a shill.
Don't say their name if they're not paying us.
Right.
But
Okay.
I got it from an online shopping place, and they have dozens of them, and they're nice and cool.
Wish.
Okay.
No, not Wish.
I know, I'm joking.
So can I be the first one to say that in this episode, I really like how we're getting so much more into the Romulans. I'm going to jump right to the part because I don't want to forget, I'm calling bullshit on that doctor showing up during the beatdown at Chateau Picard.
What is this?
All.
A gun? I don't know what I'm doing. I'm so scared.
Maybe it's set on stun. Yeah,
I
know
just,
that.
They're a disruptor.
Right. Yeah.
I definitely think, I think she's being manipulated. I don't think she's outrightly working against Picard. I think she talked to the Commodore. The Commodore was like, Picard is searching for something that's going to be very bad for us, so we need you to go in as an undercover, and when you find the thing, call us and we'll be there and we'll get you out of there. So she shows up. Yeah, she shows up and she thinks that Picard's going off on some crazy mission, but she needs to bring the Commodore in at the right time when they find Soji. And so that'll happen.
Mm-hmm. Her anxiety could have either been, I'm actually so excited to be here because I'm a big fan and this is my life dream. Or it could be someone has a metaphorical gun to my head.
Right.
And I have to do this or they're going to kill me. So it could be
she
either.
May not even know.
You think she might?
It's true.
Know?
She either knows that she's being forced to go, coerced to go, or
she could be
being
bugged.
She's being bugged.
So I just wanted to get that out. So let's
okay.
Go ahead and back up to the beginning. So we've got more insight as to what happened with the attack, the synth attack on Mars, and what got Picard out of Starfleet. It was basically a
ultimatum.
It was an ultimatum. Yes. Picard gave an ultimatum in a second chance to try to mount a rescue. Was rejected, turned down, and he said, well, either do this plan or accept my resignation. And they said, don't let the door hit you on the ass,
in the butt.
On the way out. And okay, so, but then his attaché, Raffi. Right. So she got fired, I guess, with Picard resigning. There was And why did she get fired? I mean, that part doesn't quite make sense to me because
it's like when a new administration comes in, they get rid of all the old cabinet members.
Okay, all right.
Yeah, but why would she lose her entire commission?
Poking her nose,
right? I mean, they
around.
Just yeeted her right out of there.
They yeeted her.
As soon as Picard resigned, she got a call from the CNC and lost her commission. And she even says later on that she spent the last 14 years just wallowing.
Nothing but thinking. Yeah.
Right. And
getting addicted to a space plant.
Snake plant. Yeah.
A snake plant. Is that
snake plant? That's what I
Okay,
heard.
that's weird because a snake plant is an actual plant.
Yeah.
Anyway,
you get into horticulture.
That's the other thing. I like plants. Okay, I like plants. That's the other thing is like people were kind of going in on the writers for the cussing in the last episode. And we can talk about that, but I just want to point out you mad about cussing, but not about the smoking that's going on because you have the pilot of this. She's vaping this for sure. She's getting fucked up because she's got so much baggage, and then you got the captain of this ship lighting a cigar while someone's pulling shrapnel out of his shoulder,
and he's pouring whiskey on the wound.
Yes, I mean this is not your father's.
This ain't your pappy Star Trek,
right? Yeah, definitely this is not your day of Star Trek. And you're right. There was over this past week, the internet was, or at least the Star Trek community was just imploding over the cursing in the show. And here's my take on it. I think that it's been, I don't know if tasteful is the right word. It's just that it's been well placed. When it's been used, it's been used in that context within the scene that it's in, and it feels totally natural. It's not like it's done just for the sake of trying to be edgy. And then that's why I don't get this this outrage over it.
Yeah, there is. We did a poll on Twitter. So we tweeted out to our followers and the cyberverse. Profanity as depicted in Star Trek Picard is setting a new tone for the franchise with mixed feelings. What do you think about these colorful metaphors? Take our survey. 57% of people said it ain't Trek anymore. Yeah. 26.4% said I don't care either way. Some people said it makes it better. So we had some very interesting responses. Thank you very much for interacting with us, taking our survey, and giving us your thoughts.
Yes, thank you. And we're going to do more of those surveys, right? Because I really like the whole survey thing. And
more surveys at Beyond Trek Pod is where you can find us.
On Twitter. Yep, at Beyond
on
Trek
Twitter.
Pod.
Yeah.
And the other thing we're going to have, as we talk about this episode and talk about the episodes every week, I'm going to do a new thing. At the end of the episode of our recording, I'm going to put in, we've asked some people just kind of as a test, send us your audio or send us your video of your thoughts, your feelings on that week's episode. 1 to 3 minutes, I think is perfect. That's the sweet spot. So if you're a fan of the show, if you're a fan of the podcast, if you would like to get that chance of putting in your take on it, and please try to keep it semi-clean. Some kids maybe
don't do anything I wouldn't do.
Right? Yeah. Right. Don't do anything Watney wouldn't do. About 1 to 3 minutes. Great. Just give us your name, where you're from. Just tell us what you thought about that week's episode or the collection of episodes up to that point. And where we're going to have folks send this, they can Beyond Trek Productions @gmail.com. That's our email. Okay, so it's Beyond Trek Productions @gmail.com.
And we'll put everything in the description of the podcast too, so you can just find us there.
Yep. We're pretty easy to be found. And if you do have, in the case of video, it's too big to attach in an email, well, there's Google Drive, there's Dropbox, all kinds of things. So yeah, I'm excited. We've already had a couple people tell me they're going to give us something to put in at the end of the episode. So I think that would be really nice. So back to the third episode of Picard. This is Watney, you guys are gonna have to take over on this one because I don't want to get too heated about a couple of the things I saw that were like, yeah, you just go ahead.
Okay, Dad, can I go for a second? Okay. I I'm having anxiety about this show a little bit.
What?
Yes, because there are inconsistencies within the show already. So how do you have these Romulans who have rejected AI and rejected advanced technology for as long as they've been around, and then suddenly they pull a device out of their pocket that can completely recreate a crime scene, like it's not molecule by molecule.
Right. It's not technology per se. It's just it's synthetic life, like androids, robots. It's not so much the technology.
Well, I remember her kind of phrasing it along the lines of, "We don't use anything with computing power more than a calculator," or something like that.
They said that they don't use any artificially intelligent algorithms, but right. I'm right there with you. I can't imagine a device that can do what we saw to recombine the residuum or whatever it was they said.
That has to include
without
AI.
Having some super smart tech in there.
Right? Yeah, everything. Maybe, there's AI in everything now in our world. The way the packages are sorted by UPS, the way ads are served to you online, those are all artificial intelligence.
Right, and maybe we're just missing like a 300th century bump in what's the hard deck for artificial intelligence now. Right. Is it okay to have this kind of smart technology, but as soon as it starts talking back to you, as soon as it starts kind of thinking on its own, bad.
Yeah.
Even though
look how quickly it goes bad though.
It does go bad, and that's another thing while I'm on it. And you can call me a Trek beard, Big J, because I know that you're a fan. I know you love these info dumps that we're getting, and maybe I just am looking for something different than you out of the series.
You're a Trek beard. Let's hear
it. Okay. But Starfleet, this pillar of force for good, sure, they've had their fuck ups in the past by using artificially intelligent slave labor. Sure, they've had this and that bad thing. They've had the rogue admiral who's actually taken over by a parasite or whatever. But you have Starfleet, this organization through and through that's been there for all of our Trek shows, and suddenly they're the bad guy.
Sure. And I'm going to ask you, why not? Why not? Why can't Starfleet just go ahead and be on the shady side? At what point? We've had 60 years of Trek. Can't we shake things up a little bit? Can't there be
just for the sake of it? Yeah. I do have an issue with that because you can.
I have an in-universe sort of explanation if I may offer it.
Sure.
And I'm going to use an analogy. The attack on Mars was the Federation's 9/11. And it's been 14 years. Now, remember, right after 9/11, the United States issued some serious ground sweeping security bills to keep things in place. And tensions are still high. You know, every year it's a big deal whether we're going to renew said act or said bill again.
Yes.
I think what's happening is we're seeing this, and a user on Reddit, Eddie_Fitzgerald, puts it really well. We're seeing the veneer of civility stripped away as Starfleet begins to reckon with this attack that's basically right next door. And a lot of
happened on Earth.
Well, exactly. What if that had happened on Earth and we couldn't blame the Breen this time because that was 30-something years ago? These were our synths. Something went bad, and 90,000 people died. And that's just an insane level for a society that is, you know, post-scarcity and pretty much provides the needs for everybody. And there's no need for, you know, that kind of horrific death to happen. And so who gets to be in charge right after that? The people who are willing to make hard decisions right away, the people who are able to galvanize popularity and support. You know, Clancy is just immediately on the offensive with Picard. Granted, Picard is sort of, you know, walking in saying, "Hey, give me a ship and stuff," and it's cool. And and, you know, and Picard on the other side, Picard just got dealt with some kind of diagnosis. We're not super sure what he was diagnosed with. We know in the Anti-Time Future from 2395, he had Irumodic syndrome in All Good Things. So that could be something that he has, and maybe it's sort of messing with his ability to be more considerate. You know, he barges in on the Admiral, he barges in on Raffi. It's sort of a pattern with him. So we're grappling, as the audience, we're grappling with threads that aren't fully explained to the audience. But in that universe, there's more going on than we're going to see. There's a lot of tidbits that are probably just on the writing room floor. That's like, the writers know what's going on. We're not going to get 100% of it.
Right. Well, and let's look at the tally. So Starfleet lost its primary shipyard, lost a planet. It's still, as was said in the previous episode, still burning to this day. So you've got Mars uninhabitable, 90,000 people dead, your main shipyard gone. And this was right next door, basically, from Earth. And I get it. I get what you're saying. I think that gives Starfleet the perfect reason to, like you said, stripping away some of that, the niceties and politeness and the altruistic attitude, because they've had so many near misses. And you're right. You brought up the Breen attack on Earth. That happened in Deep Space Nine episode. So they've got that. They've got these issues happening right there at their doorstep, and you've got these members of the Federation that rely on Starfleet to protect them, have their backs, et cetera, et cetera. And I thought it shocked me when we were told there were several members in the Federation that were saying, no, the Romulans are on their own with this whole thing, which is a shame, because, yes, they've been an antagonist to a lot of worlds, a lot of species, probably real pain in the ass. Well, real pain in the ass to everyone. And then when they needed the help of the humanitarian mission, there were several that just said, no, we're good. No. And especially after losing that rescue fleet. So
I think that might have been an inside job.
Oh, I'm definitely
or allowed to happen, because
Raffi says so.
Yes. Yeah. Fate kills himself. The android, we see him terminate himself, and so obviously it's not the sense bad code, and I think we learned that via Raffi. I'm trying to just recall. So either it was the Jatvash or Jatvash, yeah. Either it was them or it was actually Starfleet, in which case there are definitely 9/11 parallels, because 9/11, in my opinion, was allowed to happen.
So Raffi says that she has evidence that someone high up in Starfleet allowed the attack to happen. She says that in this episode.
Yes.
This isn't Futurama. You're not going to see Dick Cheney on it with a glass head on a robot body. But there's someone high up. Now, who do we already know that's high up that's a conspirator already? The Commodore.
Right. But is the Commodore high up enough to make that kind of shit happen?
She is the director of Starfleet security.
And she's a Vulcan. I mean, if anyone is equipped to...
Romulan!
Oh, really?
She's a Romulan in disguise.
Well, 100%. What we do know is that she is super cool, because this episode has a huge talking point online has been the sunglasses, which look like Ray-Bans? Something my mom would wear. Well, let's insert a picture just to flavor it a little bit, but it's just a little ridiculous. Like, you're trying to be incognito, but you're still wearing your uniform. Not to mention your pip is crooked. Come on, costume department, please.
I missed that one.
And her hair is tucked behind her ears, and it just looks so ridiculous.
Trivia.
Let's hear some trivia.
There was an Enterprise episode where Archer asked T'Pol if she would need sunglasses to go out into the desert on Vulcan, and she assured him that it was unnecessary because the Vulcan third island would accommodate that.
And because she's Romulan.
Because O is, I suspect, is Romulan, she needs the sunglasses because she doesn't have that eyelid.
The ears are also really not Vulcan. They're out. They're like a bat. They're like
they kind of go out little,
and they're not like the sleek Spock,
right?
Curled up, nothing like that. We're in full bat mode.
The Commodore is suspected to be a Romulan.
Don't get her wet. Don't feed her after midnight. Because that's like gremlin ears.
Right. It was, and I wonder if that's why, because the Romulans now look so, I don't want to say indistinguishable from Vulcans, or maybe even looking like a human, except with just the ears and the eyebrows.
Mm-hmm.
And they did have some that kind of have more of a little more bulbous head. And
the ridges.
The ridges. We find out that's the northern thing. That's Northern Romulan, because
So let's go into that.
Okay.
Let's go into that, because I was actually having a little trouble following like the whole scene in the contained area.
Right.
So does someone want to maybe elaborate on what exactly was going on there with like the cards that she was playing with?
So Soji and Hugh went to see this specific Romulan who, for one reason or another, she is supposed to be significant and have some kind of knowledge and awareness.
Her ship was the last one assimilated.
And Soji points that out. Hugh, obviously, that is Jonathan Del Arco, reprising his role after 28 years. Hugh was encountered by the Enterprise D in the episode
good.
Borg. And it was debated at the time if they should release Hugh back to the Borg with a virus that would destroy them, and they decided against it. They sent Hugh back. Hugh's cube goes wonky. Lore comes along, finds these Borg in complete disarray, and gives them a sense of order. Also starts experimenting on them. And Hugh ends up helping the Enterprise D crew save the day, save Data, and defeat Lore.
Mm-hmm.
What happens to Hugh after that, we don't know. But now here we are 28 years later. His implants have been removed. He's the director of this reclamation project.
Mm-hmm.
And he takes Soji to visit this Romulan woman. And all of these Romulans in this room are just absent. They're not there at all.
Mm-hmm.
And over the course of this conversation, which I thought from a choreographed perspective was actually really cool, because they had Picard questioning that Jad Vash guy at the same time. That Soji was questioning this Romulan former
very
Borg.
Intense. It was great.
And both of them at the same time are like, "You're the destroyer," and that's when the Romulan former Borg starts flipping out, grabs a weapon, and Soji stops her from killing herself. And the cards were definitely, in my impression, that was some kind of Romulan game that she was just focused on, like that's her happy place now.
Mm-hmm.
Something has happened to Romulans and assimilation that just, they come back gone.
Can I read something for you here? So this was, when you brought that up, that reminded me of a post that I saw on the leading Star Trek Picard community on Reddit. That's r/Picard. And that was my phone that I kind of dropped because I've got, clumsy hands. So I read this, and it's a shame. Like, there's really no one's made any comment on this, but you hit on something that I read in this, and I thought, oh, this guy's going somewhere. So this is my user called Foo Barney. It says Foo Barney. I had this in reddit.com/r/Picard. In episode 3, Soji develops magical knowledge of Ramdash's ship and assimilation, and starts asking her what caused the Borg cube to disconnect from the collective. Finding that out seems to be why Soji, probably subconsciously, was trying to interview Rhonda or even why she came to the project at all. So clearly, it's a significant question. Given that she specifically asked Rhonda about it, it probably relates to her personally, which means it probably relates to some old Romulan myth somehow, since that's Rhonda's bag. All of Soji's talk about developing a common mythology to treat the XBs, that SX Borg, feels like a reverse engineered explanation to bring Romulan myth into the story. Clearly, it's important. We've also seen another plot thread about old Romulan myth, the ancient big secret that the Zhat Vash is so keen on protecting, which we also know somehow connects to Romulans' fear of synthetic life. Given all that, it's a pretty safe assumption that assimilating Rhonda is what led to the cube being cut off. After all, she had a brain full of knowledge about Romulan mythology that would have been assimilated along with her. Perhaps she knew the big secret, or knew enough that the Borg could infer it, which suggests that the big secret may have something to do with the Borg. Maybe the knowledge itself was somehow destructive, or maybe it's something that the Queen doesn't want the whole collective to know about. So the Borg disconnected the cube like it was a blown fuse. So what could it be? The best theory I can figure is that the Romulans somehow had a hand in the Borg's origin 1,000 or so years prior. Maybe the Zhat Vash developed sentient androids who eventually incorporated a biological species, became the Borg, and turned on the Romulans who created them. We know from TNG, The Next Generation, the episode The Neutral Zone, that the Romulans had their own history with the Borg long before the Federation did. And the fact that assimilated Romulans seem to react differently to assimilation than everyone else by becoming the scattered suggests there's a Romulan connection hard-coded into the Borg. I don't find it a particularly satisfying theory, is what Fu Barney says in closing, but it's all I've got. Anyone have any ideas that fit the facts? What caused the cube to disconnect from the Borg? And yeah, that really hit. I think he's on something, because they seem to be putting a lot of emphasis on this whole Romulan connection to everything, and why the Romulans take assimilation so much differently from anyone. Well, now it's not. It was the post-assimilation. It was being de-assimilated, not while they were drones, right? While they were drones, was that really said or inferred? I think the problem is just as we were liberating these Borg, once we got to the Romulans, we liberated them, but for some reason, the Romulans were the ones that were acting off their rocker after being liberated. Mm-hmm. Or were they acting up while they were drones? I don't know if that was
the Romulans creating the Borg, is that theory, right? Which the Borg space is Delta.
Correct.
Very far.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Not far enough that it's untraversable, as we know in Voyager.
Right.
It could have taken them many years to migrate to the Alpha Quadrant, but the Borg have been around for how long? 1,000 years? Longer than that?
There was a phrase in Voyager 7 of 9 said that the Borg have been known as the Borg for 950 some years, and this was about 20, 25 years ago for Voyager. So I think 1,000. Yeah, we can say 1,000.
So when do we know in the timeline, canon-wise, when Vulcans and Romulans split off?
About 480 Earth time.
Yeah. So, okay,
but they were talking about the Zhat Vash having this problem for thousands and thousands of years. So that predates all of this. I'm just saying that. And that's my big pitch there, is that predates
unless
the
7 of 9's Queen was withholding information from her area of the Borg.
I think that there's
I mean, that's kind of a stretch, but you'd have to backtrack canon a little bit.
Right. Yeah, there's something smells rotten in Denmark. There's something about this whole the Borg, the Romulans, the whole. I think we're going to get turn on our heads here. I think they're going to just shake up the whole mythology and what we know about these canon events of the separation of the Romulans and the Vulcans. We were told that they nearly annihilated themselves in the war. The Romulans are completely against synthetic life. A Borg cube was disconnected suddenly from the collective. Now, I could be wrong, and the only thing that sort of bothered me about Fu Barney's theory is, isn't the cube damaged? It looks, or is it just being taken apart? Because
a little bit of both.
Okay, and that's the thing, was it looked like it had been in some kind of battle, but you don't. Who has ever been able to disable the Borg cube in battle? You're either going to destroy it or it's destroying you.
Put one to sleep one time.
Yes, well, yes, put one to sleep and then promptly send some malware its way to make it blow
exploded.
Up. Right. So that's the thing. That's what I'm wondering. I believe it was cut off from the collective on purpose.
Right.
Also,
we know that. Yeah. We know Icheb's ship got cut off from the collective on purpose as well. So
weird. It's almost like they were just like, nope, we're going back. Something there is gonna rot. Something there is gonna make us weaker.
Thickens.
I think it's like the Zhat Vash are very confusing to me because, well, I just want to also remark on the brother-sister vibe, the Cersei Jamie incest vibe I've got going on.
Oh boy.
Which maybe Game of Thrones was just preparing us for this brother-sister relationship. But then he goes into talk to Soji and is like, I think I'm falling in love with you. And then that's weird. That's weird because the writing is just everything, nothing feels earned.
You're right.
Nothing feels earned. There's the relationships and things that are happening all feel like this is how we wrote it. It feels very much like that to me, is that we want this result for the show, and therefore there's no development. They slept together one time. Not that sleeping together requires romantic love or leads to romantic love, but she seems unperturbed by that confession. She seems like, oh, that's cute. That's really cute. But it just is very awkward and weird to me. And I also think maybe he's being kind of like, he's lying to his sister maybe about his mission a little bit.
You know, I don't know if anybody has seen Avatar: The Last Airbender, but I got Azula Zuko vibes from the two of them, and I feel like he's gonna do something at the end of this show that is gonna be, it's not gonna redeem him, but it is gonna help. And that's what I'm sensing. But I also have been paying attention to the way that he talks to Soji, and nothing he says is relevant to the questions that she asks. They're all deflective. In the last episode, he deflected everything she asked and coughed it up as, I'm a very private person. And then in this episode, like, she comes to him with distress over something, and he immediately flips it to, I think I'm falling in love with you.
Yes.
Right, distracting.
Which is distracting. Yeah, it's very much, don't think about that, don't think about that, don't think about that. And I'm getting like that shudder when you recognize someone's manipulating you and you just want to punch him in the mouth. That's how I feel about this guy. Now, whether or not he gets to do the right thing on behalf of Picard and Soji later, we will find out.
So, like, also his sister, I don't know her name, which is very bad of me, but the sister tells the Commodore, I've got my best man on it.
It's him.
And it's him, but the Commodore has doubt. And the doubt, I think, extends to the sister as well. I think she's just putting a front on. And so I think that there is definitely some kind of setup there for him to go astray from the mission. Now, at first I thought that, I'm sorry, my cat.
Your cat wants to be a part of the
purring. I know. She's our mascot.
Yes.
I forgot what I was saying. I think at first I was like, oh, this guy's a sociopath.
Mm-hmm.
But I think he's kind of getting set up to be something a little different. And who knows? Who knows where that's going to go? I hope that this is all superficial and we get something deeper. That's really what I hope for.
I do too. So let's do this. Let's do predictions. What do we think for the next episode? What do we want to see?
Well, we're gonna see Space Romulan Legolas with a sword.
Oh, that's right. That's
for
right.
sure. I'm so excited to meet that character. I don't know who he is, but I'm so excited to meet him.
Yeah, they're definitely burgeoning into the
refugee
fantasy style.
Yeah. The Romulans are
meant to come with me on my quest.
Yep. This is like a sanctuary city of sorts, where Romulans are living, even though their home was destroyed. How many years ago? 14.
Yeah.
So I feel like they put like more than a decade in between where we're at now and what happened, but everything still feels so raw to the characters. It's like they say this much time has passed, but everyone's acting like it's been 4 or 5 years.
Does the human psyche have the capacity to process losing a planet?
No, I mean, it's
like I had a friend who lost their house recently, and
Right.
I can't fathom that. That's a house, and that's a lot of stuff, and that's terrible. And a planet is, if there's 900 million of you left, that's less than a seventh of what we have on Earth. That means out of every 100 people, 14 lived.
Wow. Yeah.
And I don't think just imagine out of every 10 of your friends, you're the one.
Right.
Yes.
Yeah. You're right. You make a great point, because when you think about, billions of years into the future, our sun will explode.
Mm-hmm.
Everything humans have ever done up until now has been on Earth. All of the bodies that have ever been created by other people, they're on Earth. They're buried. Their memories were here.
Mm-hmm.
They lived their lives here. Atrocities were committed. Miracles were happened on Earth.
Mr. Rogers lived here.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, exactly. It's everything we've ever known is on Earth for now. So if we were to lose our planet, and the Romulans, of course, they were able to branch out and they had other worlds and everything, but it's still like the hub.
Right. Look at all that was lost.
Yeah.
And it's really incredible that we're experiencing this much raw energy from them regarding the loss of Romulus, while in the JJ verse, Vulcan's destroyed and Spock's like, well, I guess I'm going to serve on the Enterprise.
Because the psyche cannot handle it. Especially really Spock's repressed ass.
That's pretty true. That's pretty true. It's really, really hard to deal with that much loss. And these people are now living together in a community, and what's binding them together are the stories of their love and their loss on Romulus. And they're going to be kids who are going to be pretty much fine. They're going to look at their parents and be like, yeah, my dad's going off the deep end again, but because they weren't there.
Mm-hmm.
They didn't live on Romulus. They didn't know what Romulus was like. They escaped when they were babies. Well, I don't know if they're going to go that far. And there's definitely going to be, there's a cultural bottleneck happening.
What do you call a Romulan boomer?
A boomer? Oh, my God.
Let's call Lohal and see if he can translate boomer into Klingon for us.
Oh, that's right.
Perfect.
We need to have him back.
Phone a friend.
Yes.
But
yeah. I got off on a tangent. I'm sorry. What I'm looking forward to is seeing us in the air with Picard again.
Mm-hmm.
And I think a big, small tangent. I think a lot of the backlash I've been reading could maybe be extrapolated, because to be that the source of would be, you've watched how many seasons of TNG? 7
yeah.
of episodic Monster of the Week episodes. And then now you have a completely serialized first 3 episodes of Picard. It basically Jean-Luc's next act. And I think it's very uncomfortable for a lot of viewers to like sit and watch these serialized episodes happen, because nowadays most streaming networks will put, if they have a serialized show, they're going to put it all out at once, and that's the way it's meant to be viewed. It's meant to be binge watched. The Witcher did this very well. They did not spoon feed the audience. They had timey-wimey stuff happening and you could watch it all at once. And that's why people are enjoying DS9 more nowadays, is because DS9 was a lot more serialized and you can binge watch it on Netflix.
Right.
So I think people are having trouble with seeing serialized television, like they had an issue with it in DS9 when it was airing, having trouble with absorbing that. So I'm looking forward, hopefully, to more episodic episodes from Picard. I would like to see it. I love serialized television, but not when I have to wait a whole week in between episodes.
There's definitely a cultural memory to what we experienced on TNG. We had the experience of, hey, it's the ship and everyone's great, and oh, there's this drama, and yay, they solved it, and the episode ends happily ever after.
Reset.
Even, imagine, I mean, it's still in our memory. 1990, Riker orders fire on the Borg cube. Locutus has just been assimilated. People talk about that summer in Star Trek like it was the end of the world. They could not wait to see what happened.
It was excruciating. That summer was the worst. Oh my God.
Yeah. And when there was part 2s, everyone shined,
Yeah.
Right, but we didn't have that closure, and I think that might be what's lingering with these serialized episodes of Picard, is we're not getting to the end of the episode going, oh, it's over, it's okay. It's, oh God, it's worse. Oh no, it's worse. Oh no, it's worse. How bad? It's
building and building and building and building, and there has to be a sense of relief for the characters because the audience is relating to them.
I like it though. I like it. But here's what I want to see in the next episode. I would really like to see how the attack on Mars was resolved. How are they stopped? I would love to see this just big, huge space battle, because how they stop the synth? Did the synth just self-destruct themselves?
It looks like they killed themselves.
Yeah, did they all kill themselves? Where was Starfleet's response? I'd like to see that. And the next episode. Now, I didn't watch the previews. I don't watch the previews for the next one. I like to just go into it totally without having. I don't watch the previews.
Wow.
So it's another show I did that for was 24. Remember 24?
Oh yeah, I own box sets of 24.
Yes. So I would not watch the preview for the next episode because I felt that could take away some of that suspense and some of that surprise. So when that show was airing, whenever the episode went off, I would change the channel. I would not watch the preview for the next one. And that's what I did that with Discovery, doing that with Picard. I want each episode to be that first time I see that. I don't watch the preview. So I could be talking about things that you're thinking, that was in the preview. I haven't seen it. I've got the feeling that we're going to see 7 of 9 soon. It feels like this next episode.
God, please.
So yeah, it's time for her.
I need her.
Right. So
give me whiskey throwing back 7.
I am still waiting for double. Dual wielding 7. Yes. And for those of you who don't know, if you haven't paid attention this far along, 7 is a member of what's called the Fenris Rangers. We don't know what those are, who they are, but it's an organization of people, and 7's part of them. So we'll learn more about them.
Well, do we not know a little bit about them? Because I thought I knew that they go out into like Maquis territory and keep the peace. Something like that.
I don't know if they go into Maquis territory.
Well, we'll find out. We'll find out.
We'll find out.
So, yeah.
I think to close us out, why don't we turn on some of these responses from our listeners? But Watney, I almost forgot. How can listeners viewers see us, catch us?
Catch us on Twitter. That's where we're at. We're on Twitter most of the time at Beyond Trek Podcast. We also have a Patreon / Beyond Trek. Where else? Oh, Anchor.fm or anywhere you listen to podcasts. We will be there. You can support us there.
If you just go on the internet and search Beyond Trek Podcast.
We're everywhere.
Or Beyond Trek Productions. We're everywhere. And you're probably wondering, okay, what's the difference? Beyond Trek Productions is more of like the over big, over
it's the umbrella.
Thing, the umbrella. Beyond Trek Podcast is just that one arm of it. However, we don't have any really other arms yet. That's why it's like, okay, the foundation's there, the groundwork is there. There's going to be more that gets added in as we assimilate other ideas, other shows, other formats. See what I did there?
Yes, yes, I did. But yeah, you can catch us on Twitter, catch us on Patreon and Anchor.fm, Spotify. We're all over there. Thank you for listening. Thank you for watching. We'll see you next week.
Bye.
We are Beyond Trek Podcast. Lower your inhibitions and surrender your years. We will add inspirational and hilarious Trek content to your day. Your attention will adapt to subscribe to us. Resistance is futile.